Hello everyone, and welcome to the Commander's Forge. My name is Sandy Bentley, and the Forge is an area for me to talk about Magic, Commander, and anything else, as I try and piece my life back together. Now, the full spoiler for March of the Machines is out, and I do not do full set reviews, because if you want that, there are plenty of other places you can go. The Command Zone will do all of their breakdowns. All I want to do is pull a card or two from each color and just kind of give a brief rundown of why I like it and places where I'm thinking about putting it. Typically, I'll do like 1 to 2 cards per color or something along those lines. And I'm going to kind of do the same thing with this one. So I'm going to go in Warburg order. So, starting with white, the card I want to talk about is actually just an uncommon, Surge of Salvation. It's a single white. For an instant, you and permanents you control gain hexproof till end of turn, prevent all damage that black and or red sources would deal to creatures you control this turn. Don't necessarily care about the second part of this, but just giving yourself and your permanents hexproof, 9 times out of 10 is going to dodge whatever you're trying to dodge anyway. And there's not much else I can say about this. It's just going to be a really good card. That said, there are, 12 decks I have that run white that this could honestly just fit into. And honestly, in general, I've found recently I like a lot of the 1 to 2 mana things that help protect a thing or bring a thing back, and this kind of falls right in line with that. Now, moving into blue, the card I want to talk about is Invasion of Segovia, for a couple of reasons. For those that don't know, Segovia is a plane in Magic where everything is tiny. So, Invasion of Segovia is 2 and a blue for a battle. When the Invasion of Segovia enters the battlefield, you create 2 1/1 blue Kraken creature tokens with trample. It has 4 of the battle counters, I guess. I don't know exactly what they're called. Yeah. But once you defeat that, it becomes Cadus, Sea Tyrant of Segovia, which is a 3/3 legendary creature serpent. Non-creature spells you cast have Convoke. And at the beginning of your end step, untap up to 4 target creatures. Honestly, this card is just hilarious to me because the art shows what is clearly the largest of these sea serpents wrapping around the ankle of a Phyrexian. And I just find that hilarious. But I also kind of like this. I'm not entirely sure where I would put it yet, but I have a few ideas for places that are going to want this. Now, looking at black, the card I want to talk to kind of ties in with what I'm going to be talking about in the next part of this podcast, but for now, we're just going to talk about Breach the Multiverse, which is 5 black for a sorcery. Each player mills 10 cards. For each player, choose a creature or planeswalker card in that player's graveyard, put those cards onto the battlefield under your control, then each creature you control becomes a Phyrexian in addition to its other types. Yeah, it's 7 mana, yeah, it's a sorcery, but this is the kind of big splashy things that I like doing with decks sometimes. Do I know exactly where this is going to go? No. But it's the kind of card that I'm going to see from 4 years from now, and just go, I could fit this in somewhere. And for that, it gets mentioned on my list. And because I don't want this episode to take too long, we're going to move right into the red pick I have for this, which is Orthion, Hero of Lavabrink. 3 and a red for a 3/3 human soldier. It has 1 in a red and tap. Create a token that's a copy of another target creature you control. It gains haste. Sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. Activate only as a sorcery. But it also has for 6 red, and tap. Create 5 tokens that are copies of another target creature you control. They gain haste, sacrifice them at the beginning of the next end step, activate only as a sorcery. The tomfoolery that will be had with this card, again, I'm not entirely sure where I'm going to put it, but I have a few thoughts, particularly like the Othari Boros tokens deck that I have. It's just, this card just seems cool stuff you want to do with stupid red cards. And I'm down with that. But to keep moving, we go into our green card I want to talk about. And this actually is one of 2 of the cards that are technically kind of part of a different cycle that I am going to be covering in more depth next week. But Surark Endcoreclaw is 4 green for a 6/5 human bear. It has trample. Other creatures you control have trample. And whenever another non-token creature you control enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on it, and it gains haste till end of turn. This is just going to be a big dumb green thing in big dumb green decks. That said, the number one place I want to slam this is in my OG Goreclaw deck. And yeah, so that's pretty straightforward. No more bear punch, attack with bear. Very good. And it kind of falls into that same category as the 7 mana black spell I talked about. This is one of those big spells that if you play this later, just gives everything else the ability to smack for a ton of damage. Or if you end up playing other stuff after this, it makes it bigger and gives it haste. Fun card. 10 out of 10. Would recommend. Alright, so that covers everything in the WUBRG cycle. I do have a multicolor card and then also an artifact I want to talk about. And the second card on the list that's in that same cycle as the last card is Ghalta and Mavrin, or as I like to call him, Marvin. It's 3 green, white for a 12/12 dinosaur vampire. It has trample, and whenever you attack, choose one, create a tapped and attacking XX green dinosaur creature token with trample, where X is the greatest power among other creatures you control. Or create X 1/1 white vampire creature tokens with lifelink, where X is the number of other attacking creatures you control. It's a big dumb dinosaur with a vampire church on its back. That is literally the main art for this card. I find that hilarious, but also this is just big dumb token or lots of little dumb tokens. And aside the fact that I know my brother Noah is gonna lose his absolute head over this card, I built King Darien Extra Large the 8th as a green-white tokens list. This is going directly into that deck. No ifs, hands, or buts. And finally, we get to the artifact. And can I really give it to anything other than the last sword in the cycle of 10? Sword of Once and Future is a 3 mana equipment. Equipped creature gets +2/+2 and has protection from blue and black. Whenever the equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, surveil 2. Then you may cast an instant or sorcery spell with mana value 2 or less from your graveyard without paying its mana cost. If that spell would be put into your graveyard, exile it instead, and it has equip for 2. Do I think this is the most powerful sword? No. Am I happy to finally have all 10 of the swords out? Yes. Will I definitely put it into a deck specifically for the Surveil 2 trigger? Absolutely. There's not much else I can say about it, so I'm not going to. It's a sword. It's going to go into things, and it's going to make things hit harder. But that's really all I have to say. And that's really all I wanted to talk about with the whole spoiler of Mom thing, except for what I have planned for next week. And so I will take a quick break, and I'll be right back with the special thing I have planned for the next half. I'll be right back. Hey, I just want to take a minute to tell you about my Patreon. I know times are hard for everybody, and I know it isn't easy to shuffle around bills and stuff. Believe me, I know that. But if you would like to help support the podcast and me, you can find the links to my Patreon in my link tree, which is always put into the description of either the video or the audio, wherever you're listening to it. It would really mean the world to me. Honestly, I'm just struggling to make ends meet most weeks. But that's it. That's all. If you want to help, the links will be where you can find them. And welcome back. Now, anybody who has talked to me for more than a few minutes knows that my favorite color in Magic is black. They would also know that I do not play many black decks because, well, they'll tend to end up the same. And I thought, what better day to talk about this than Easter Sunday? So let's talk about the main thing I like to do with black decks, which is reanimation. So, happy Christian Reanimation Day, I guess. So it all breaks down into, I like black decks because of their versatility to reuse things. I like the different styles of reanimation that we get. And I'm just going to go through some of the examples of what I'm talking about. So you have like the battlefield to battlefield reanimation with things like return to action, which is 1 and a black for an instant. Until end of turn, target creature gets +1/+0 in lifelink, and when this creature dies, return to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control. And fake your own death. 1 and a black for an instant. Until end of turn, target creature gets +2/+0 and gains when this creature dies. Return it to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control, and you create a treasure token. So those are the things that are just going to return something to the battlefield that was on the battlefield when it dies. Simple enough, right? Then you have the next style of reanimation, which is from graveyard to hand. My two favorite that I've been running in decks currently that kind of do this is Takenuma Abandoned Mire, which is a land. Taps for black, and it has channel for 3 and a black. Discard Takenuma, mill 3 cards, then return a creature or planeswalker card from your graveyard to your hand. This ability costs 1 less to activate for each legendary creature you control. And the other one is Tortured Existence, which is just a very combo-oriented card. It's a single black for an enchantment. You can pay a black, choose and discard a creature card, return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. And those kind of reanimations are good for things with cast triggers, whereas the battlefield ones are great for ones with enter the battlefield triggers. And then there's the main style of reanimation that I like to play, which is, from the graveyard to the battlefield. And that's the one that I have the most examples of. Things like Shieldred, the Whispering one. For 5 black is a 6/6 Praetor. It has Swamp Walk. At the beginning of your upkeep, return creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. And at the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, that player sacrifices a creature. So this one does double duty, and it should, for being, 7 mana. Phyrexian Delver is 3 black for a 3/2 zombie. When Phyrexian Delver enters the battlefield, return creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. You lose life equal to that card's converted mana cost, which is just Reanimate tacked on to a 3/2. That said, Reanimate is a single black mana for a sorcery. Put target creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. You lose life equal to its converted mana cost. Now, the Delver does only hit stuff in your graveyard, whereas Reanimate can hit any graveyard. But I digress. Yawgmoth's Vile Offering is 4 and a black for a legendary sorcery. Put up to one target creature or planeswalker card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control, and destroy up to one target creature or planeswalker, and then exile Yawgmoth's Vile Offering. So, yeah. It's one of the reasons why I don't play Black very often, is because the games all tend to kinda end the same way. And yeah. So I got one more card that I want to go over here, and that is Command the Dreadhorde. 4 black for a sorcery. Choose any number of target creature cards and or planeswalker cards in graveyards. Command the Dreadhorde deals damage to you equal to the total converted mana cost of those cards. Put them onto the battlefield under your control. So, Reanimation, at its base, is just what black decks want to do. And that's why I don't play them very often. That said, I do have a black deck that is in my rotation at the moment, and that's Ayara, first of Lochthwaite. And the deck does run some Reanimation stuff, but it ends up being a mono-black aristocrat and tokens deck. So, don't know. That said, I don't really have a whole lot else I want to talk about. I've kind of been ignoring Twitter again because I don't know what drama is on there anymore. And yeah, so I hope you all have a wonderful Easter Sunday, because that's when this will come out. Or, if you don't celebrate, just have a good day. And I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening. All of my links can be found in my link tree in the description below. I would like to thank Ian Foss and Cody Mulpey of the band The Crypt for allowing me to use music for my opening and ending, along with Nate and Erica Jacobs for making my original logo. And I would also like to thank Christina McNichol for creating my new logo. And I'll see you next time.